Welcome to today's explainer. Okay, so today we are going to completely deconstruct the journey of the Buddha. But wait, we're not going to look at it as some distant religious myth, or a tale of a deity floating up in the clouds. No, instead, we're tackling it as the ultimate psychological case study for our modern existential dread. We're looking at a man who wasn't trying to find God at all, but was literally just trying to heal a raw, bleeding psychological wound. If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by life despite doing everything quote-unquote right, well, you are exactly where he was.
So let's just dive right into this by asking a really uncomfortable question. Why is it that you can so confidently debate complex spiritual concepts like karma, rebirth, or the afterlife online, yet feel completely powerless, paralyzed, and curled up crying from depression when you're alone in your bed at night? It's a pretty piercing question, isn't it? We arm ourselves with all this intellectual, spiritual knowledge, but man, when the lights go out, the anxiety still absolutely chokes us.
You see, our spiritual path is so often driven by a proud ego. We're out here chasing the myth, trying to discover the secrets of the universe or secure our own immortal souls. But the reality? It's completely different. Prince Siddhartha, the man who actually became the Buddha, completely ignored all those metaphysical debates. He didn't waste a single second arguing about where the universe came from. Instead, he focused entirely on the raw, immediate, and honestly, often ugly suffering of humanity happening right here and right now.
Part 1. The Tragedy of Perfection.
To really wrap our heads around his radical psychological breakthrough, we have to look at the prince's historical starting point. He was born into silk, holding supreme power, living in towering palaces. Now look at us today. We're out here chasing mansions, luxury cars, desperately refreshing our phones for thousands of validation likes. Because, obviously an algorithm's approval is the secret key to inner peace, right? Well, if happiness were truly measured by material success, he had already won the game. But mapping his wealth directly onto ours proves a pretty terrifying point. Material success simply does not cure the underlying pain.
Because despite having absolutely everything you could ever possibly want, he was haunted by this unnamed void. And dramatically, this is the core tragedy of both the ancient prince and the modern person. Amidst all the partying and the luxury, there was just this cold, gaping emptiness inside him. It wasn't the pain of material poverty. It was the intense, suffocating agony of a complete lack of existential meaning. It's the exact same feeling of coming home to a house full of really expensive things, staring blankly at the wall, and feeling like your life means absolutely nothing.
Part 2. The 3 slaps of reality.
We try incredibly hard to live in this sterile glass cage today. We slather on expensive cosmetics to hide our wrinkles, and we treat death like it's this awkward taboo we definitely shouldn't bring up at dinner. Well, Siddhartha lived in a beautifully constructed glass cage of his own, until he stepped outside. Day 1, he sees an old man, back bent and frail. Day 2, a sick man writhing in agony. And Day 3, a lifeless corpse. He was violently hit with a brutal truth. No amount of political power can bribe time, no amount of money can pay off a deadly disease, and absolutely nobody gets to bargain with the Grim Reaper. We are all, every single one of us, simply standing in a really long line waiting to lose everything we've built.
Part 3. The Origin of Pain. Now, Siddhartha's radical departure from his palace wasn't driven by pessimism or just being tired of life. It was driven by an urgent, burning need to solve humanity's deepest psychological paradox. If change is the fundamental, unavoidable rule of the universe, why do we humans fear it so profoundly? Well, he actually discovered the answer, and honestly, it shifts the entire paradigm. Suffering is born from clinging to the impermanent. Think about your absolute worst moments of heartbreak, when a deep relationship ends or a business you poured your soul into just collapses. That crippling pain you feel, it doesn't actually come from the event itself. The universe is literally just doing what the universe does, changing. The pain comes from your desperate, agonizing desire to hold on to something that naturally, inevitably, must flow away. Let's define this super clearly with a vivid metaphor. Imagine trying to grab the flowing water of a rapid river with your bare hands. The harder you try to hold the water, the tighter you squeeze your fists, the more exhausted and frustrated you frantically become. The water will always slip through, right? True suffering is that death grip. Our clinging is a self-made psychological prison where we literally torture ourselves by resisting the natural flow of reality. Part 4. The Scam Called I.
Before reaching his profound climax under the Bodhi tree, the prince tried extreme starvation and extreme indulgence, only to realize that both were really just the ego thrashing around, trying to survive and assert its own importance. So he sat down, looked inward with razor-sharp observation, and uncovered the universe's absolute greatest scam. As he watched sensations, memories, and thoughts rising and falling just like waves, he realized nothing stayed still, and the terrifying yet beautiful truth finally hit him. There is no permanent I there at all. Pain doesn't come from the threat of death. Pain comes from the massive illusion that there is a permanent, unchanging self that is being threatened.
Part 5. Healing from the wound. You see, when the illusion of this permanent ego shatters, a profound shift happens. The one who is supposedly suffering simply disappears. You don't have to fight the pain anymore, because the you that you thought was being hurt is seen as just a temporary collection of flowing experiences. When that happens, an absolute profound peace automatically manifests right in the middle of life's noisy, chaotic flow.
So, let's distill our final takeaways for today. True awakening isn't about praying to distant gods, casting spells, or trying to craft a holier, more spiritual ego just so you can secure a VIP ticket to heaven. It is entirely about taking off your masks. It is about stopping your endless running from reality. It's about looking directly at your pain and dropping the heavy, exhausting mask of the ego right here in the messy, muddy reality of your present moment.
Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really want to leave you with this final thought. Tonight, when you're alone in the dark with your thoughts, will you stop seeking truth in distant books or fantasy heavens? Will you bravely look directly into the fear, the loneliness, and that crying ego in your own chest? Because the absolute truth of this psychological breakthrough is this: the door to your freedom and liberation hasn't ever been anywhere else. It lies exactly within the center of the wound you spend all your energy trying to hide. The moment you stop running, reality smiles.